we're on day 6 of the German lawnmower. So after a little bit of disappointment yesterday that I couldn't finish because of the lighting situation, we're gonna be installing the PMC adapter plate. I got the flywheel in place just as a mock-up because turns out my dumbass ordered the wrong size screws. So we're gonna be sitting just a little bit just to waiting on those. But that was gonna give us enough to work so we can mock up the transmission because we need to cut it to fit the starter, because the starter on the Honda motors goes in a different place than the BMW, so you need to actually trim a little bit about here somewhere to make space for it. So right now we're gonna install the PMC adapter plate. Found some instructions online. I was more worried about the torque specs, and I found them. I don't want this thing to fall apart while I'm driving because it will be a catastrophic failure. But yeah, I was able to find them. So what I'm gonna do is set the adapter plate in place, torque it to spec. I'm trying to cut the hole for the starter. That way so like I said in the last video, I messed up on the flywheel screw size. I ordered the wrong ones for this kit right here. Let me see if I can focus. I ordered the wrong ones for these, so I actually got the right ones now. So I'm finally gonna be able to make those two together. Take a look at the size difference on these. So these are the ones I got, and these are the ones that I actually need. Look at the size difference. So I'm gonna put a tab of Loctite on those, torque it to spec, cut the hole on the transmission so I can finally feed the starter in there. This is gonna be finally one piece together. It's gonna be ready to get thrown in there. Perfect, flywheel is in place and it's torqued to its spec. Cut out to the part I use the torque wrench, if you do that. Now what I'm gonna do is cut the little notch on these so I can fit the starter, install the clutch assembly, and I'm actually gonna change the master cylinder for the clutch since I got a new one anyways. And once this is in place, I think it's gonna be a nightmare to change, so I'm just gonna do it while the transmission is out. After that is done, transmission and motor are gonna be single assembly finally. One thing is I finally got the right sensor for the bung. Shout out to K-Power, they helped me out to get the right part. Just put a little bit of Teflon and tie it. That part's plugged directly to the BMW harness, part of your wiring harness, and you're actually going to read the temperature on your dash. So that's pretty neat. So let's jump to it. Let's finish this up. Alright, transmission have been marked for where I need to cut. It's actually a really small notch. I heard some people do like a 2-inch hole saw. I don't have a hole saw for steel, so I'm just gonna use a angle grinder for it. Let me put the camera in a way that you can see. That will do. We'll take it from there. Such an awesome feeling when you have the tools for the job. Fortunately, this is not the case. There should be a hole saw for steel, which I don't have, but we'll make it work with this. Beautiful. So this is as much as you kind of have to cut to get the starter in place. I think I went a little bit too far, but once this thing is on, I am not gonna take it apart again. So hopefully that's enough. Now, since I got the transmission out, I'm just gonna go ahead and replace the slave cylinder, the master slave cylinder, whatever you call it, because I got a new one that was sold to me when I bought this transmission. I'd rather just do it when the transmission is on a bench, because doing underneath the car is gonna be a total nightmare. Whatever you can do to make your life easier, do it. So let's take that one out of the lid. So with the oil, in with the new. Easy as that. That's just an easy swap that is worth it, if you ask me. Okay, now everything that needs to be done to the tranny is done. Let's jump out to put on the clutch assembly. Just like any regular clutch, just make sure everything is tightened down. Get some brake cleaner and clean the surface of the flywheel. That's a very important part. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Make sure you use the alignment tool, because I've seen clutch warts get terribly bad when they don't use these. So let me set up the camera in a way that you guys can see, and I'll do it. Make sure you also clean that part too. Now you get the bolts in. Okay, now it is really important that when you're tightening the clutch, you do it on a star pattern. That way you're gonna apply even pressure to the pressure plate per se. That way you won't have any issues when you're installing it. All right. So now that the clutch assembly is in place, it's time to cry a little bit and put this guy in place by myself. I went ahead and put up the throttle bearing already, and I apply a little bit of grease on the shaft just to make it easier, just to slide it in. Hopefully it works. I know people that put the anti-seize on that part, so with time the clutch assembly doesn't stick to that shaft. But anyhow, that's usually how it's done. So now I'm gonna start putting that in place. Let me find a better angle so you guys can see me struggling. Let's take it from there. All right, make sure you remove the alignment tool before you do that, or otherwise you're gonna have a hard time getting it in. There's a little bit of play on this, but that's right. Alright guys, so my camera ran out of batteries when I was trying to put the transmission and motor together, but that was a good thing because I saved you guys from like 30 minutes of cursing and screaming. I'm sitting around thinking what the hell I'm doing wrong. It turns out that I was using the wrong pilot bearing for it, so the one that was in the flywheel was a little bit smaller than the one that I actually need, so the shaft from the transmission wasn't actually fitting on that little hole. But finally, motor and transmission are on a single piece. Awesome. So one thing to note is that if you're running a CF transmission, you can actually install it two different ways, but there's only one correct way. As you can see, it has a little pin that you can use as a guidance, right? Well, that pin can go either here where it is or in this little hole. So it turns out that if you put it in this little hole, that whole transmission is going to be tilted to one side. So you don't want to do that. You want to do it on the one to the right. And in order to do that, it says in the transmission instructions, and it says that for model whatsoever, you need to actually trim this little hole right here. You need to open it a little bit bigger so the screw can fit the bolt can fit on the threads on the adapter plate. Of course, I had to open this hole a little bit bigger because I was doing it the other way around, so I was falling short on space. But thankfully, it's not a big deal. It's gonna work. It's now on a single piece. Clutch, transmission, and motor are back together in one piece. So it's finally looking like our rear-wheel drive setup. So next thing will be, and I know I have said this a million times, cleaning the engine bay, delete the power steering, and just shove the damn thing in there. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I see you in the next episode of the German Lawnmower.